Good day everyone, you're welcome back to the channel. This is Yuglo Fashion and thank you so much for stopping by. For today's tutorial, I'll be sharing the making of this pants. So please stay tuned and enjoy the tutorial because it's well detailed and also beginner friendly. And if you benefit anything from this tutorial, please like and share the video and subscribe as well. Thank you. I used this Ankara fabric for the tutorial, and I also have little piece of paper stay which I used for the band. So first of all, I cut out part of the fabric so for the front bodies, and to get this I just measure the thigh, the circumference of the thigh, and the fabric is on fold, so I divided it into two. The circumference is 24 divided by 2 will give 12 inches, and I added like 3 inches allowance to it, so which means I have 15 inches on fold on the table right now. So after doing that, I proceed to measure the starting point. So this will be the starting point, and from the starting point, which is the waist, I measured the hip length. So I used 9 inches for the hip length, and also for the crouch I used 11 inches. So after that, I proceed to measure the nail length. I used 20 inches for that, and also I measured the length. So for the length I used 38 inches, and I added 2 inches for M. To calculate the crouch, you can just, at times I use this measurement, I use this calculation, I divide my hip by 4, then I add 1 inch to it, or you can just sit down and measure from the midpoint of your back, that is your waistline, down to your butt. I hope you understand my explanation. Then after that, I ruled out all the vertical measurements I've measured. I ruled them out, and I proceed to measure 1 inch at this edge here. I measured 1 inch in. You can see the way it is. I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. Then I proceed to label each part. So I label the hip, the waistline, the crouch, and also the nail, which I used K for. I also labeled the length and the M as well. Now to the business of the day, which is our pants, or let's say trousers. I measured the hip circumference at the hip length. So for this, the hip is 40 inches divided by 4. That will give 10 inches. So at the hip length, I measured 10 inches. And at the crouch, I measured the circumference of the thigh. Just measure your thigh round. So that's how to get the circumference of the thigh. So after measuring that, I have 12 inches, and back to the waistline, I measure the circumference of the waist. That's 33 inches divided by 4. So these two parts you are going to divide by 4, and every other part you will divide by 2. So for the waistline, you divide it by 4. Hip, you divide by 4. The crouch, you divide your thigh by 2. Then the nail length as well, you divide your nail by 2. So after all of that, I connected the lines together. You can see the curve I have already. The next thing to do now is to measure the midpoint of your crouch. You know we have 12 inches there. So you just fold your tape into 2. That is, you fold the 12 inch into 2. This will make it easy for you. Instead of you trying to get the midpoint, just fold your tape this way. This is 12 inch, fold it. You can see it is divided already. Then place it back on the crouch and mark the midpoint, which is the 6 inches. So you have to mark the 6 inch right from the crouch down to the M line, like you see me do. Just connect the line back to the M. And having done with that, the next step now is to measure your nail. So there are different approaches on how to cut the pants, but today I'll just be using this method. As time goes on, I'll still show you another method to cut the pants. So we have different methods, so to say. So for the nail, the circumference of the nail is 18 inches divided by 2, that's 9. So for the 9-inch, you have to fold your tape again into 2. Like you did at the crouch, you fold your tie. So you fold your tape into 2, which is 9. The midpoint will be 4.5. Then you place the 4.5 on the 6-inch, that is the middle. You placed it there, then mark on both sides. You mark the 4.5 on both sides. And for the M as well, the length, I used 12 inches divided by 2, that's 6 inches. So you fold your tape again, you fold the 6 inches into 2, which will give you 3 inch on both sides. Then you mark them. After marking, you connect the lines together. So at the M here, I just extend it with 0.5 inch. That is because when you want to fold, you can see it will be easy to fold, or you can just fold your fabric and try to connect it. So you try to connect the lines, but instead of stressing myself doing that, I just extend the M with 0.5. Then back to the waistline. This depends. If you want your zipper to be at the front, you come to the waistline, measure 2 inches for the width. Then for the length, you measure 7 inches. That is right after the allowance of the waist. You can see that's the part I used the blue chalk for. And I proceed to mark 1 inch from the starting point down, just to give the front piece a curve shape. So, and after marking the 1 inch, I connected it back to the edge. The next is the dart. I ought to have done this dart even before I curve it, but I do not have plan of adding that. But for the sake of the tutorial, I decided to add the dart. So for the dart, I measured from the waistline, I measured the nipple to nipple span, which is 7 inches divided by 2. Then from the 7 inches, I came down with 4. Sorry, from the 3.5 inch, I came down with 4 inches. That's the length of the dart. And at the 2 sides of the 3.5 inch, I marked 0.5 on the 2 sides, then connected it back this way. You can see the way it is. Next is to add our allowance. Now we are done drafting our pants. The next is the allowance. So for the allowance, I left 1 inch at the edge here, so that will serve as the allowance for the pants. So, and I added 1 inch. You can do 1, you can do 0.5 inch, either way around, depends on how you know how to manage your fabric. So, but for me, I used 1 inch right from the waistline down to the M, and I proceed to connect the lines together. So this is what it looks like after connecting the lines. And next thing now is to cut out our front piece. We are done with the front. So after cutting the front piece out, I proceed to place it on the remaining fabric, and I folded the fabric 2 into 2, since we are going to have 4 pieces in total, 2 at the front, then 2 at the back. For the back, since there won't be zipper at the back, I folded the zipper part at the front in and started my markings from there. And I also ensure I left allowance for the back. Then next is the back must be higher than the front, so I extended the back with 1.5 inch. I've covered the front with 1 inch, and I slant it back to the edge. So for the back, I added another extra allowance of 1 inch. I've added 1 inch for seam allowance for front, so now I'm adding another 1 inch to the back. The front still has its own 1 inch, and placing the front on the back piece, which means I've added 2 inches to the back. Now I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. Front piece has 1 inch already, placing it on the back and still adding another 1 inch again to the allowance, which makes it 2 inches allowance for the back piece. And after that, I mark the 2 inches all around, that is from the hem down to the back to the waistline. Then I connected the line and cut it out. And after cutting, I notched the hem. So this is the front piece and this is the back piece. This is what it looks like. Next is to fix our pockets, because for this trouser I'll be adding pockets. So for the pockets, I have already cut 4 pieces out. So for the length, for the width of the pocket, I used 5.5 inches, and for the length I used 9 inches. So to get the measurement, I just measure from the side back to that measurement. So I have like 5 inches there, and I added ½ inch for seam, which makes it 5.5. Then the length, I just measure from the waistline down to the hip line. So that was why I used 9 inches. Next, I placed 2 pieces aside from each other. It's 4 pieces, 2 pieces on one side. Then the remaining 2 pieces, I placed it under the front pattern. Then I shaped the trouser out. You can see the way it is. That's the shape of the pants, and I shaped it out. Then the remaining 2 pieces, that will be the shape of the pocket. So I placed it under the pants. Then I measured 2.5 inch for the width of the pocket. I used 2.5 inches and mark that out. And for the length, I used 5 inches. For the length of the pocket, I used 5 inches and marked that out. So the pocket can be fixed in 2 ways as well. If you like, you can just flip it over this way. There's a method like this, but I will not be using this method for this tutorial. You can flip it this way, and if you like, you can just cuff it out this way. So this is the method I'll be using. So I proceed to do that. I cut it out. I just first curve it out, then I cut the 3 pieces now together. That is the 4 pieces, the trouser itself and the pockets. So I cut the 4 pieces out and I reshaped the waistline. You can use pin to secure this instead of it falling off from each other. The 4 pieces will be able to stay together. So, and I shaped everything. This is what it looks like after cutting the pocket out. So to place the pocket, you pick the one that does not have the shape, which only has the shape of the trouser. You place them on each other this way. Then you pin the edges together. Just watch the way I'm doing mine. It's very easy. Just pin the pieces together this way, the sides, then proceed to the machine to sew. You can see after stitching, this is what it looks like. It's looking like pocket already. Then the front side, the right side, just place the right side on each other, then stitch round. Place the right side of the pocket on the right side of the pants, then stitch it round. You can see this is why I said it's looking like pocket already. This is the front. Next is to stitch the 2 fronts together. So you are going to stitch from the zipper side right after the zipper allowance. Just stitch like ½ inch there. You can see me pin them down. So this is the part that you stitch together. So you stitch from the zipper down to the after the zipper down to the crotch. So this is what it looks like. And after that, you pick the back piece too and pin the 2 together. and stitch. You can see the part I stitch. I've also proceeded to fix the zipper. This will be the topic for another day. I will show you how to fix zipper on trousers. So having done with that, next I place the front and the back piece together. So, and I proceed to stitch the edge. The allowance I added, I pin them together and proceed to the machine to stitch the two sides. So this is what it looks like after stitching. Next is to stitch the middle. You know, I've stitched the side. Next I proceed to stitch the middle together. So first of all, I pin the middle round and move to the machine to stitch. So this is what it looks like after stitching. I've given it a good press. The next thing to do now is to fix our band, and for the band I measured 4 inches by the circumference of the waist, but the circumference of the waist I added like 5 inches to it. This is because the band will lap on each other. You understand it as time goes on why I added additional 5 inches. So, and I went ahead to add my interface. I used paper stay and I ironed 1/4 inch at the top here. I ironed 1/4 inch. This will help me when I'm stitching the band to the pants. So to do that, I flipped it this way. I ensured that the zipper side is in between, that is the waist side. One side of it is in between the band. This is how to go about it. This was why I added 5 inches earlier. So after folding it, I ensured that the band is longer, like 2 inches longer than the waist measurement. This is because it's going to lap on each other. And after that, I pinned it round and stitch. So after stitching, I gave it a good press. I folded it together this way. You know it's band, so it should be on fold. That was why I used 4 inches earlier. And folding it, you know, I've stitched 1/4 inch and I've ironed 1/4 inch as well. So this is what it looks like. Next is to just stitch on it. So thank you very much for watching this video to the end. Bye.